so that there's an even, there's the bias can be controlled that way. You have Republican, Independent, Democrat, and that they're all made up. It's made up of the senators. Well, right now there's only 4 senators on it, and they are Carolyn C. Hunter. She's a Republican. She was appointed by Bush in 2008, and her term expired in 2013, 7 years ago. And she's just listed as term expired, serving until replaced. Stephen T. Walter is an independent. He was appointed by Bush in 2008, 3 days prior to her, I guess. And his term expired in 2009, and it just says term expired, serving until replaced. Ellen L. Weintraub, she's my favorite. She's a Democrat. Her position is commissioner. She was appointed by Bush in 2002, 18 years ago. Her term expired in 2007, 13 years ago. And she's just listed as term expired, serving until replaced. Okay, there's a 4th senator who just barely got onto the commission a couple months ago. And his name is James E. Traynor III, and he was appointed by Trump in 2017. And this is my theory. I believe that the impeachment happened, yes, because they were trying to get rid of Trump, but I believe there was another reason for it. James E. Traynor III could not be put into the commission until 2020, just a few months ago. So it took 3 years for him to get from being appointed to being put onto the commission, because the Senate was busy with what? The impeachment. So I believe that the Democrats specifically did the impeachment to keep the Senate tied up so that Trump could not replace these other 3 senators before the election. I think the election, they knew how important it was. They knew that if they could, that they were planning, we all know they're planning to do something messed up with the election. But this is what I think, is that the F.E.C. needed to have these other 3 senators on there because I believe that they are super corrupt. I mean, I'm about to give you tons of evidence of that. But they are super corrupt. They're part of the deep state and swamp creature people, if you will. And the Democrats were very, very adamant that they needed to keep these 3 people in place so that what they're about to do during the election would be under the jurisdiction of these 3 people, and Trump couldn't replace them. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to read to you from a blog. It's called The First Amendment, Freedom of Speech, Religion, and Assembly. And it was written by Lee E. Goodman, who was a senator who was on the commission. And I believe he just got out of his term being on the F.E.C. in 2018. He was appointed in 2013, and he became the commissioner late in 2013. And then he wrote this blog, okay? He's talking about, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but he's talking about the F.E.C. and how they were trying to regulate, on the record, was having 2 people on to debate, a Democrat and a Republican, and the independent guy who wasn't invited complained to the F.E.C. about this and said, that they should have their press exemption yanked because they're not being fair or whatever. And so he's talking about the freedom of the press and how the F.E.C. should not be regulating, that the press has the right to have on whoever they want to debate on their show. Okay, then out of nowhere, he kind of just throws this in to his article. The judgment of 6 F.E.C. commissioners who are by law appointed by partisan affiliation can be biased too. A few examples from recent years, several predating current commissioners' tenures, are revealing. The F.E.C. voted unanimously in 2008 to recognize a technology company, Milothe Inc.'s right to launch a new web campaign channel devoted exclusively to pro-democratic coverage, endorsements of Democratic candidates, and even solicitations for contributions on behalf of Democratic candidates. 6 commissioners also voted to recognize former Democratic Senator Gene Carnahan's right to launch an online publication in 2005 devoted exclusively to pro-democratic commentary free from regulation. But in 2010, 3 commissioners voted to find that the Sean Hannity show violated the law when the radio program endorsed a Republican candidate for Congress and emailed his endorsement and a solicitation of support to the show's distribution list. Likewise, there were 6 unanimous votes in 2004 on the commission to dismiss complaints against Michael Moore, Harvey Weinstein, and their production companies for expending corporate funds to produce, advertise, and exhibit the anti-Bush editorial film Fahrenheit 9/11. But only 4 votes in 2010 to recognize the press rights of Citizens United to make conservative documentary films. Also in 2010, the commission deadlocked 3-3 when filmmaker RG Entertainment sought to advertise and distribute the conservative documentary I Want Your Money. Okay, now I won't read the rest of the article, but he just goes on to say we need to have the freedom of the press. Now, the information you put in there is very, very cool. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of this article, but I think that he did it for a very specific reason. I believe that when he's talking about that the F.E.C, he says, that the F.E.C, 6 F.E.C commissioners who are by law appointed by partisan affiliation can be biased too. A few from recent years are revealing. Okay, so then he talks about these 2 press exemptions that were given to 2 different companies, or 2 different people. There was Milothe Inc., it's a technology company, and Senator Gene Carnahan. Okay, now, I was an employee of Milothe. I worked for that company. I was the girlfriend of the founder of Milothe for nearly 4 years. And so I know a lot about Milothe. I can tell you a lot about Milothe. And they did receive a press exemption, I believe, back in 2008. I didn't start dating the founder of Milothe until 2010. And at that time, there were many employees who'd been hired to work for Milothe. And all of us believed it was a startup company that had just barely been created, Milothe. And none of us knew about the press exemption, or at least I didn't. I mean, I don't know about the other people that were working there, if they were aware that this was going on. Okay, I'm going to read you another short article here. Okay, it says CLC urges F.E.C to deny internet TV station exemption. If it walks like a partisan campaign operation and talks like a partisan campaign operation, it should not qualify for the press exemption from campaign finance restrictions. That's according to the Campaign Legal Center, which Monday asked the Federal Election Commission to rule that a proposed internet TV station did not qualify for the exemption. The center's filing came in response to a request from the self-described proposed internet TV station, Milothe, for a ruling from the F.E.C on whether, as described, the group would qualify for the exemption, and if it did, if it could also solicit funds on the part of the candidates it covered. Companies engaged in news gathering do not have their expenditures for news coverage or commentary on a candidate counted as in-kind campaign contributions. The exemption from regulations on contributions to a federal election applies to any news story, commentary, editorial distributed through the facilities of any broadcasting station, newspaper, magazine, or other periodical publication, unless such facilities are owned or controlled by any political party, political committee, or candidate according to campaign law. The press exemption has been expanded to include online news operations, but the definition of news operations is not a bright line, and the CLC said Milothe definitely crosses it. Milothe told the FEC it would likely provide news coverage, features, and editorials in support of only Democratic candidates, but pointed out that it was not owned or controlled by a party or candidate. Democratic candidates Milothe added that if it permitted, it would consider letting its commentators, guests, and hosts solicit money for those Democratic candidates. Okay, then it should not get the press exemption, the CLC said, adding, "We submit that an organization whose apparent sole purpose is to be the functional equivalent of a partisan campaign operation to elect Democratic candidates and to solicit contributions for such candidates is not a press entity engaged in a legitimate press function." Okay, that's the Broadcasting and Cable Newsletter that put that out. And that was in September 2008. Okay, so you can see that a lot of people were opposed to Milothe getting this press exemption for obvious reasons. Okay, this is my ex-boyfriend, Syed Doha. That is not his real name, and I don't know what his real name is. But at the time that I knew him as Syed Doha. And this man right here, his name is Marc Farinella. The two of them together created three companies back in 2007 in Melbourne, Florida. Milothe Inc, LLC, and then they created also Offlow Video and another company called Mint, MEINT. Okay, so I'm going to read from Syed's LinkedIn. Okay, so his experience is he's from Bangladesh, and he came to country manager Bangladesh Sears and Roebuck. That's from 1990 to 1993. President of Rand's Company, that was another clothing apparel thing, from 1995 to 2000. Then we've got Ajnika Web Services from 2002 through 2006, and he was the COO. And okay, so we'll just go to there. Right here on Ajnika Web Services, it says it was a spin-off of web services component of RAND's and continued to provide outstanding campaign websites such as Erskine Bowles for U.S. Senate and Democratic Senate Majority Fund. Okay, so Erskine Bowles was the chief of staff for Bill Clinton, and it's not listed on here, but I know that he also did a lot of the web stuff for Mel Carnahan, and we'll get to him in a minute. Okay, he was the governor of Missouri. All right, and then Marc Farinella. Oh, but what's interesting is then it goes on. Okay, so Ajnika Web Services, 2002 through 2006. Then it jumps all the way to 2014, where he becomes the chairman and CEO of B.D.F.I.C. is his new company. It was also Melbourne, Florida. So there's 8 years missing from Ajnika Web Services, and that's when he had Milothe and Offlow Video and Mint. But none of those are listed on his LinkedIn, which is weird. Why are they not there? Okay, then you go to Marc Farinella. I'll read you a little bit about him. Okay, Marc Farinella is a political communications specialist and the executive director of the Project on Political Reform at the University of Chicago's Harris School of Public Policy, one of the world's leading institutions dedicated to public policy training and research. Okay, so then it just talks a little bit more about that. Okay, prior to coming to Harris, Marc was a political communications and management consultant and held senior leadership roles in both policy and political arenas. He served as the chief of staff for the president. Served as the chief of staff for Mel Carnahan, he was governor of Missouri. As the president of Farinella and Associates, a consulting firm founded in 1990, Marc was a strategic communications and campaign management advisor to candidates and elected officials across the nation. Clients include Senator Evan Bayh, Senator Bob Casey, Senator Gene Carnahan, Senator Harris Woolford, Senator Alan Dixon, Governor Ben Nelson, Governor Mel Carnahan, Governor Christine Gregoire, and many others. Okay, those many others, which is blaringly missing from, if you're a political consultant and let's say you won, a presidential campaign, like you were running Barack Obama's campaign in 2008 for the state of North Carolina, which he was. So this man was running Barack Obama's campaign for the state of North Carolina, and this man is not a citizen of the United States. So the two of them, a non-citizen of the United States and somebody who is running a presidential campaign, hired this man right here. This guy, his name is Marc E. Elias. And he is a lawyer who works for Perkins Cole law firm in Washington, D.C. They hired him to ask for a press exemption from the F.E.C. And he got it for them. Now, this guy is just unreal. I mean, he must be one of the best lawyers in the history of Washington, D.C. And the F.E.C. just loves him. I mean, I have I don't even know how many pages here. How many pages do we have here, Mark? I mean, he's just gotten so many amazing rulings. I'm going to read to you a couple of his amazing accomplishments here. He, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so TechNet successfully obtained advisory opinion regarding corporate payments for outside fundraising consultants. That has to do with Milothe, so I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, Senator Barack Obama, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Barbara Boxer, and Senator Dianne Feinstein represented elected officials in successful dismissal of FEC complaint involving endorsements on campaign website. And this whole page is just all dismissals. Each one of these lines is one ruling. So that's all dismissals, okay? And then another thing he's really good at getting, besides dismissals, is he's got Office of the Senate Democratic Leader, consultant to the Office of Senate Democratic Leader Tom Daschle in connection with the investigation of alleged fundraising abuses during the 1996 presidential campaign. Dayton, 2010, recount. Franken, 2008, recount. Cantwell, 2000, recount. Reed, 1998, recount. So he gets recounts all the time by the FEC for, presidential campaigns, for Senate campaigns. He also, Democratic Senate Majority PAC represented client in successful dismissal of FEC complaint for alleged violation of Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act's prohibition on raising non-federal funds. Okay, Supreme Court of Minnesota obtained a unanimous decision affirming that Al Franken had received the highest number of votes legally cast in the 2008 general election for United States Senator, and therefore was entitled to receive the certificate of election. Perkins Coie also represented Franken during the election, a 6-week recount involving nearly 3 million ballots, the largest in American history, a several-week trial, and multiple appearances before the Minnesota Supreme Court. Nader versus the Democratic National Committee, U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, represented 2004 Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry in lawsuit over third-party ballot access. Okay. All right, so let's see what we have here. Okay, so here's the Milothe ruling. Milothe Inc. successfully obtained advisory opinion regarding application for media exemption to internet TV station. Senator Frank Lautenberg successfully obtained advisory opinion regarding payment of personal loans by a candidate. That one's funny. Senator Frank Lautenberg sought advisory opinion regarding the loan payment provision of the Millionaires Amendment. Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee sought advisory opinion on options for financing recounts. Okay, Fired Up, LLC, FEC advisory opinion represented new media company in successful effort to extend media exemption to bloggers. And Fired Up is Gene Carnahan, the other press exemption that Lee E. Goodman mentioned in that blog was Fired Up. He got them also a press exemption. Okay, so we have Meetup Inc. represented web company in advisory opinion request regarding political uses of meetup.com site. What could that be? Okay, so we just have page after page after page after page after page after page. I mean, there's so many FEC rulings here. There's so many. It's mind-blowing. Okay, so he successfully obtained advisory opinion permitting Super PAC to accept unlimited corporate and union contributions to make independent expenditures. What does that mean? Permitting Super PAC to accept unlimited corporate and union contributions to make independent expenditures. Okay. Successfully obtained advisory opinion permitting the use of recount fund for litigation expenses. That Facebook represented leading social media company regarding the exemption from full disclaimer requirements of character limited ads. Same thing for Google. He got that for Google. Okay, where's that other thing? There's one here that is just unreal. Okay, so we've got Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, General Counsel. National Democratic Redistricting Trust, General Counsel. Carrie Edwards for President, 2004, General Counsel to 2004 Democratic Presidential Nominee. Chris Dodd for President, General Counsel to 2008 Democratic Presidential Campaign. Okay, so he's a big shot. He's right up there. He's a big shot. And one of the main things I wanted to read to you though was this about him. Is this okay, here we go, this one. Okay, so Robin, okay, first I have to go back. Fired Up is the other illegal press exemption that Lee Goodman mentions in his blog when or that blog that he's talking about that there are two biased FEC rulings. Fired Up was given to Senator Jean Carnahan. She was the wife of Mel Carnahan. He was the governor of Missouri, and he ran for the Senate. And 3 weeks before the election, he dies in a plane crash with his son. His son's piloting a plane, and they both die in this plane crash. But he still wins the election even though he's dead. And instead of them giving the Senate seat to the other candidate, they give it to his wife. You hear this? They give the Senate seat to his wife. I didn't know that you could inherit that. I didn't know that that was like, you know, one of the things you could bequeath to your wife or kids or whatever, a Senate seat. I didn't know that those were up for grabs like that. But it turns out they are. So anyway, Jean Carnahan becomes the senator for 2 years until a special election can be held to put in a real senator. I don't know. Anyway, but when she gets out of the Senate after that 2 years, immediately she files for a press exemption. And she hires Marc Elias, the exact same lawyer, and she's given the press exemption. Okay, and then Robin Carnahan is her daughter, and she ran for the Senate in the same state, Missouri, and she lost the election. She didn't win. But during her campaign, she was sued for copyright infringement by Fox News. And she goes to Marc Elias. I love this guy. And he goes before the FEC, and he gets her this FEC advisory opinion. Okay, so Elias gets her unrestricted access to federal funds to pay her legal defense. Did you hear me? Unrestricted access to federal funds to pay her legal defense. Even though it's not a criminal case, I don't know what legal defense. It's a copyright infringement. I mean, anyway, so the Carnahans, I think that's their second or their third. Oh yeah, that's the third, because they also got this other advisory opinion about bloggers. So it's the third FEC advisory opinion that they've gotten through Marc Elias. And I'm telling you, there is just so many pages that this guy has gotten the most ridiculous stuff you can even imagine. Like this one. This one is, okay, North Carolina Voting Rights Challenge. Represents a group of North Carolina voters in federal voting rights litigation in which a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit issued a unanimous ruling that the state's Republican-led General Assembly intentionally discriminated against African Americans when it enacted several new voting restrictions. Okay, and then he goes on and talks about how these whatever restrictions the Republican, the Republican, led General Assembly intentionally discriminated against African American voters. So he got all of those things overturned. Okay, so U.S. Supreme Court racial gerrymandering victory. Secured a unanimous victory in the U.S. Supreme Court, cementing a win for several Virginia voters previously obtained from a 3-judge panel of the U.S. District Court of Virginia, which found Virginia's 3rd congressional district to be an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. In a vote of 8-0, the court dismissed the appeal brought by Virginia's Republican congressional delegation, who had intervened as defendants in the action, based on argument that the delegation lacked standing to maintain the appeal. Okay, and there's just a lot of these rulings. Now, the thing that's very interesting about those 2 illegal press exemptions that were given, the one for Jean Carnahan and the one for Milothe, is that the one for Fired Up was given in 2005, okay? And Milothe's wasn't given until 3 years later in 2008. But Jean Carnahan received her press exemption from 2005 until 2016. That's a long time, okay? Then Milothe received their press exemption from 2008 until 2016. And neither one of these companies is real. They are both fake companies. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not real corporations that were started. Yes, they are. Milothe was a real company. it hired real employees. And then it went on this very long, the first year that I was around in 2010, or I mean 2000, yeah, the 2010, there was like a year of all these meetings with all these employees that have been hired and all these high up people in the tech world and the entertainment industry. And it was about this, new technology that it had created that was going to revolutionize, file size and reduce file size and end buffering or whatever. But after these big meetings and stuff were had, and it kind of established itself as, yeah, we're a legitimate company having meetings with these big important people like Harvey Weinstein and, people like that then out of nowhere, Syed just fired everybody. He just fired the entire staff. And there was no technology. Now, and it claimed in its petition to the FEC that it was going to have this internet TV news station thing. That's why it got the press exemption to begin with. But there never was any internet. None of that was ever done, okay? And now Fired Up, the Washington Post praises it as like this great blog, this great political blog, this very cool. Okay, all I could ever find that Fired Up had written, or any blogs or anything, I could find articles about Fired Up, but there's a Facebook page where there's a bunch of political cartoons, maybe a sentence here or there, but there is no. I mean, this company held the press exemption from 2005 until 2016, and I can't find the blog anywhere. I can't find it. I mean, I can't find anything written by the blog. Also, what's weird is that Marc Farinella was Mel Carnahan's chief of staff, and Syed Doha did a lot of the web stuff, a lot of the internet and web stuff for Mel Carnahan and Gene Carnahan. So those two men are tied into both of those. I don't know if that makes any sense. They are involved in Milothe, and then they're involved in Fired Up, though they're not listed anywhere. Okay, and the ownership of Milothe, the company, was Syed as founder, CEO, and then Marc Farinella was listed as the secretary and the treasurer, I believe. And then in 2012, the company changed hands, and Marc Farinella was completely taken off the corporation paperwork, and it was just put into Syed Doha's name. Now, one of the main things that is missing from the documents and the links I was going to put in the description box is all of the information about Milothe. It is gone. Like, if you try to find it on the internet, there is nothing left. They have completely covered their tracks, wiped out, gone. If you go to Corporation Wiki, you used to be able to see Offload Video, Mint, Milothe, all these companies, and it even had this cool little diagram where it connected Marc Farinella and Syed together and how they're, different companies they worked for all. And now if you try to go to those companies, it just says, a monster ate this page. Here's a cartoon, and it says a monster ate this page. Boo. So anyway, and that happened just a few days ago when I, was trying to make these videos. Now there's an article by Media Matters, I believe it is. Where are you? Media Matters article. By Media Matters, here it is, right here. Oh, no, that's not it. Anyway, Media Matters wrote this article, and it's pretty interesting. It's them talking about, it was written by Ben Shapiro. Yeah, Ben Shapiro. You really should fact check your, I don't know where you got your information from, but the article is very specifically talking about, where is it? It's talking about Fox News, and it's just ripping them to shreds because they are campaigning for, oh, gosh dang it, here it is right here. Beautiful. Okay, all right, so it says it's talking about Fox News and how that they are acting as a, like they should get their press exemption yanked because they are campaigning for these Republican candidates. Okay, so then it says right here, So because Fox News is neutral and is not owned by a political entity, although you could certainly argue it's controlled by the GOP, then it has free reign in terms of the media exemption and is free to transform itself into GOP Central, and the FEC shouldn't say boo, right? Case closed, correct? Not quite. Okay, so then he says right here, let's look at the case of a recent, this is written in 2020, startup company, Milothe Inc., which petitioned the FEC for a press exemption. Milothe described itself as a web-based TV station that would go inside the campaigns of Democratic candidates and provide web video and programming that would be of special interest to Democrats and progressives. But Milothe did not qualify for the press exemption. As explained in a November 13th, 2008 memorandum signed by the FEC's General Counsel, even though the FEC and the courts have used a very liberal definition of press entity for the exemption, the commission ruled that Milothe did not qualify because it would essentially be indistinguishable from the interests of its chosen candidates. Sound familiar? See if the highlighted passages below from the FEC memo remind you of a certain fair and balanced cable channel. Milothe Inc. proposes to work with the campaigns of only Democratic candidates and potentially only one candidate of that party. The commission recognizes that the lack of objectivity is news and commentary. Objectivity is news and commentary does not automatically disqualify an entity from coming within the press exemption. Here, however, the featured campaign's message would be indistinguishable from that of Milothe Inc. itself, indicating it would function not as a press entity, but a press arm of the candidate's campaign. More, Milothe Inc.'s proposal, however, further indicates that Milothe Inc. intends to engage in core campaign activities that are not legitimate press functions. Milothe Inc. envisions that program hosts, interviewers, and news anchors will regularly solicit contributions, with the links to the candidate's contribution page appearing on the screen during programming. So in these respects, Milothe Inc. would be functioning not as a press entity, but as a fundraising arm of its chosen campaign. The FEC's conclusion? Here, the commission finds that the purpose of the venture would be to actively participate in the chosen campaign's activities, to promote the chosen candidate and the campaign's message, and to solicit money and support on behalf of that candidate. This purpose and function cannot be viewed as a normal business activity of a press entity. Okay. So then he says, if you weren't already aware, Fox News pretty much did all of those things on behalf of Scott Brown. The FEC made the correct, sensible decision in 2006 when it extended its media exemption to include bloggers, and he's referring to Fired Up, even though many of them broadcast a proud partisan voice online. There's nothing wrong with a strong editorial voice. What Fox News is doing today, however, goes far beyond broadcasting an editorial voice, skating so close to GOP campaign management that it should no longer enjoy the distinction of media exemption. Bullshit, Ben Shapiro. You are so full of it. This is a complete lie. Just lie. The whole thing. I'm not, I actually think Fox News is probably, thank God for them right now, though they are just as hit as any other, mainstream media thing. They've got their own issues. But, I just have to throw this in there. Tucker Carlson, you are a badass. You impress me so much. Thank you for everything you do. You're amazing. Amazing. Okay, sorry, I just had to throw that in. Okay, this thing about Milothe is all completely false. I have here, and this I think is probably, the links will still be there because I can't imagine they could have taken this down. But this is called The Record. It's the FEC, the Corporate Labor Guide supplement. It's talking about the FEC rulings, the rules, that they have, and also all of the rulings that they've had. And it says clearly in here, Milothe received the press exemption. And then I have also this one. This is Federal Election Commission official document. And it, again, states that Milothe got the press exemption. And Milothe is referenced all the time by the FEC. All the time. They use that because it was one of the early internet press exemptions. Okay, and then here's another one. This is an official website of the U.S. government, FEC record advisory opinions. You can find it anywhere. So why Ben Shapiro is flat out lying, can you be more blatant about what you're saying, as a lie? I don't understand exactly. And why is it because he's coming at really coming at Fox News? Or is it because they are trying to cover their tracks with Milothe. Because, I mean, for someone who is running a presidential campaign and someone who is not a U.S. citizen, why did 6 commissioners unanimously vote to give the press exemption to Milothe? Because somebody who's running a presidential campaign, I think, qualifies as being part of a political party or political, campaign. I mean, yeah, he wasn't a candidate, but come on. You can't give press exemptions to people from other countries, because that would mean a foreign, you shouldn't be doing that. That they would know it's illegal. I know Marc Elias would know it's illegal because he's a lawyer. I don't know if we hold Marc Farinella and Syed Doha responsible for that. Do we hold the Federal Election Commission, who obviously did not do their due diligence in the F.E.C. ruling, the advisory opinion where they give them the press exemption? They say very clearly that they are not part of a political party, campaign, whatever. And I believe that Marc Farinella running Barack Obama's campaign for North Carolina probably means that he should not have received the press exemption. And I have a hard time believing that the F.E.C. wouldn't know that he was doing that. If they were hiding that from the F.E.C., then I guess maybe the F.E.C. is not responsible. But I just read to you a few F.E.C. rulings over the years, but you should look at the rulings that have happened, and especially the ones obtained by Marc Elias, because I'm telling you for sure that Marc Elias is the lawyer that they are going to hire to get the redistricting, the racist gerrymandering, like all these rulings that are about to happen in regards to the election. And that's how they're going to try to steal the election, is through this man, Marc Elias, with this very, very corrupt FEC that should have been gone, 10, 11, and 13 years ago. Their terms have been expired that long, but they've remained there because no president has replaced them. And they did not want Trump to replace him. And that's why I think they did the impeachment, was to keep it busy so that they would make sure that this very, very corrupt Federal Election Commission was in place to give the rulings that Marc Elias is going to ask for when he represents Biden in this upcoming election. That's my opinion. And I think that we need to watch. If he does become the lawyer for Biden, big flags going up all over the place. Okay, now another aspect to this whole thing is that it is not, I don't have any proof of this. I have no proof of this, but there was a lot of funny business going on, I don't know how to say it, regarding Milothe, the company Milothe. There was a lot of money coming in and going out. And since no business was ever done, there was never anything bought, never anything sold, no deals done, nothing. I mean, the employees that worked there were just pulling their hair out, like, what do you want us to do, And they were just basically there for show. But there was millions and millions and millions of dollars going through a bank. I had $1 million in my name at one time because I had never put anything in his own name. I know that there was a lot of money going through. Now, there are claims by other people on like these things called Ripoff Report, which is just a website that you can look at that talks about Syed and that, working for him, that there was like a lot of money being, what is it called? Gosh, I can't think. Like laundered. Okay, yep, money laundering was going on for Dubai. If you look here at Ajnika Web Services, one of the companies he has, so he talks about becoming a supporter for progressive causes such as Women's Media Center and Democratic Senate Majority Fund in 2006. AWS donated $35,000 worth of services to Women's Media Center, an organization founded by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and Robin Morgan, to further equality of women's participation in media. On the commercial side, AWS would use innovative applications such as AIML-driven game show sites integrating short codes, SMS interfaces that are yet to be replicated. Through a private deal brokered by Crescent Capital of the United Arab Emirates, AWS would unwind. Syed would voluntarily give up $47 million worth of stocks to the employees. But there weren't any employees. There weren't any employees. As far as I wasn't there, I wasn't dating him back then, but from what he told me and from what I gathered from family and other people that were associated with him, Ajnika Web Services was just him. So I don't know what employees he's talking about, though I believe that it's very possible that there was a private deal brokered through Crescent Capital of the United Arab Emirates for $47 million. I just don't know. I don't think it had anything to do with stocks or employees. Okay, anyway, so there was a lot of money being laundered through these foreign countries, Dubai, Bangladesh. I mean, I don't know. This is all just. I'm saying that had happened. I don't know that happened for sure. I just know that when I was there and I was, there and I was hearing these things talked about, those were the names I was, of countries I was hearing and where money was coming and going, but I was not paying attention. I was paying very little attention back then because I didn't even realize what was going on. I had no idea what I was hearing, or I heard those names thrown around and stuff, but I didn't know the significance of what was happening, and I didn't even worry about money being in my name because I trusted my boyfriend at that time, and I never thought he would be involved in anything bad at that time. But it turns out there's a lot of people that have worked for him, and I will put the links to these. I don't know if they will be gone. Also, these ripoff reports, there's like 3 or 4 different people that posted them talking about him and his money laundering, okay, and ripping people off and stuff. Now let's see. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I feel like I am. Something important. Dang. Well, okay, so I really love this country. I love America. I love the Constitution, and I think it's really important that I just thought it was really important that I come forward, even though I don't think it's, we're talking about people that are associated with very high up politicians. Marc Farinella and Syed Doha were both associated with Erskine Bowles, who was the chief of staff for Bill Clinton, associated with obviously Obama. If Marc Farinella was running his campaign for the state of North Carolina, there's also this man. Okay, I have to bring him up. Oh, this man is kind of interesting. Okay, his name is Roy Temple. Okay, so Roy Temple, he is, let me read to you who he is. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, Roy Temple is a veteran Democratic political strategist from the great state of Missouri. Temple is an innovator in the use of digital media in advocacy efforts. He is the original founder of Fired Up Missouri, recognized by the Washington Post as an outstanding local political blog. In addition, Temple secured a pivotal F.E.C. advisory opinion that offers guidance to bloggers about the intersection of blogging, advocacy, and campaign finance law. Temple has been active in Democratic politics since 1986, having served as political director of Governor Mel Carnahan's first bid for governor of Missouri, and as campaign manager for his re-election in 1996. Temple was also deputy chief of staff when Marc Farinella was the chief of staff, and the chief of staff to Governor Carnahan during his tenure. Temple served as the liaison between Governor Mel Carnahan and the Clinton White House on federal issues and appointments, and worked with governors and their staffs from across the country during Carnahan's tenure as chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. Temple later served as the U.S. Senator Gene Carnahan's chief of staff. In that role, Temple supported Carnahan's work on the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Senate Commerce Committee, and the Government Affairs Committee, now the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs. Temple was particularly involved in Carnahan's work on the Permanent Subcommittee on investigating during the hearings and the collapse of Enron. Okay. In 2004, Temple served as the Missouri State Director for the presidential campaign for Senator John Kerry, and in the general election served as the Minnesota State Director for Kerry Edwards 2004. Okay, so if any of that sounds familiar, it is almost exactly the same as Marc Farinella. It's just for the other person that got the press exemption. Okay, so Marc Farinella was running Barack Obama's campaign. He was also the chief of staff for Mel Carnahan. The Carnahans and these two men, these two political strategists for the Democratic Party, and they all got these press exemptions, okay? So let's say, I'm just going to throw this out there. Let's say, you've got this great thing going on and you are laundering money into very high up political campaigns. And you're doing it through, I don't know, just pick a place like Mena, Arkansas, let's say. You have this really cool savings and loan you can use. You got this really cool airport you can use. And, you got a little illegal stuff going on that's giving you some cash. And you're able to pump it right into the D.N.C, wherever they want to put it, campaign here, there, whatever. So then all of that gets blown open, and you just like, dude, you lost your place to launder money. you need a new gig. You need a new place. So these two political strategists, let's say Roy Temple and Mark Farinella, come up with this idea to use the F.E.C and to get these press exemptions. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can launder money right into campaigns wherever you want. And it's free from regulation. And you also have this other guy who has access to tons of money from foreign. So I guess kind of like, similar to like the whole thing they accused Trump of, like the collusion with the foreign government, to influence a federal election. But we're just talking about like something that actually could have happened, and I'm not saying it did happen. This is all my hypothetical. I'm just saying, hypothetically, let's say that was the case, that you had this savings and loan in Mena, Arkansas that was doing all of this money laundering for you, and you were able to put it in these campaigns, and then you needed a new place to do it, and these two political strategists possibly came up with this new scheme. So that's what I'm proposing, and so the clock is ticking. If anyone wants to contact me, I would do it right away. I have nothing to lose at this point. My email is Frankie, Franki Wheeler, Wheeler, the number 1, FrankieWheeler1 at gmail.com. I'll put my phone number in the description box, because I think that this whole thing, I have a lot more information I could give that's not really connected to these subjects, but could be of as much importance as what I'm saying right now. I feel like I'm forgetting something so important. I can't remember what it is. Gosh. Anyway, what is it? I just don't know. Anyway, I'm really sorry that these links to these documents have been blocked. I'm hoping that somebody can figure out how to find them again and get this evidence, so that it's like, I had substantial evidence gathered to back up everything I was saying, and a lot of it, I'm terrified because somebody has hacked in and knows what I'm doing, knows I'm about to do this, and so I'm not even gonna try to edit this thing. I'm just posting it up on wherever I can, and I hope somebody sees it. I really hope so. This is, I believe, what they're going to try to do to this F.E.C, Marc Elias, corrupt little game going on with these people all working together. Marc Elias gets everything. He goes in front of the F.E.C and asks for, whether it's a dismissal or an approval, he gets it. And I believe that is about to happen in regards to this election, and it's so important. It is so important. I just want to say thank you to Trump and his family, and to all the people that have. I wish that I would have had the courage to come forward sooner, and I'm just glad I'm doing it now, just because I realize how important it is now. And where we go one, we go all. Thanks. Okay. Thank you.